Hi everyone, in today's tactics video I'm going to review the datasheets from the Astra Militarum Index for what we used to call headquarter units, troop, now called battleline units, elites and fast attack. As said, we no longer use those definitions within the 10th edition of Warhammer 40,000, but it does help to sort of navigate this index. I'll then do the second half of this index in a later video, but just keeping it a bit more bite size to make it a bit easier to follow. I've also got the old codex in front of me here to look for any major changes, and I've also got a spreadsheet in front of me here, also the point changes from the 9th edition to the 10th edition point values. Right, so starting off of course with our epic hero, meaning you can only take one of him, Lord Leontis. Now his points have gone from 170 to 125, representing a 26% point drop. An overarching theme, as I eyeball most of the characters, is that they've all had a points reduction. And that matches other armies that have also had all their points obviously updated. Now Lord Solar's key statistics have basically remained the same, with the only call out being the AP on both weapons has gone to AP2 from AP3, and his previously damage 3 Soul's Righteous Gaze pistol is now down to damage 2. So definitely making him a little bit less killy. His horsey now has got 2 additional attacks which you can deliver, but hitting on 4s at strength 4, so a bit more sort of chip damage. Now, looking at his core abilities, he is a leader, which means he can join Rough Riders, Shock Troops, Catachan and Death Corps, Infantry Squads and Kasrkin. Now, given he's got a 12-inch move and those poor foot soldiers have got a 6-inch move, to keep unit coherency, he is going to be obviously dropping down to a 6-inch movement. Right, so as far as what he can do, he basically has the voice of command ability, and he gives you essentially 5 CP over the course of the game, as long as he survives. So previously, as you may remember, you basically get an additional CP if he is on the battlefield at the beginning of the game, or you can choose a new secondary objective, and this has been massively enhanced. Now you basically get 5 CP if he of course lives throughout the entire game. Now, this mumbo jumbo here, which I'm going to mispronounce, is basically the old Master Tactician Warlord trait, or now called an enhancement. And he can give 3 orders to any Astra Militarum units. So Abhumans if you want to give them to Ratlings or Ogryns and Bullgryns, and the full array of vehicles and signs as well as everything else. So Lord Solar is significantly cheaper at 125, and within the game of 10th edition, he definitely feels to be a bit of an inclusion because simply 5 CP over the course of the game, it's hard to ignore. Now the old Master Tactician rule is always very good to have, and considering you've got this baked into his rules, it's definitely quite a good thing to include, and I think it's going to be pretty much an auto pick for most army lists. So good news for Lord Solar. Okay. Now on to Ursala Creed. Now she has also dropped from 80 to 55 points, so another 31% point drop. Now she obviously isn't made for combat, either shooting or melee, but her weapons have basically, again, the AP has gone down on both, and previously had damage 2 pistols, now damage 1. Okay. She can give 2 orders to regiment units, which basically means all of the stuff you'd expect, like Kasrkins, Infantry, Death Corps, and of course also Cadian, plus the other units like mortars. And she can join, unsurprisingly, well actually surprisingly, Cadian, Shock, Infantry, and Kasrkin. So she can't join Death Corps of Krieg or Catachan, which from a lore point of view kind of makes sense, but it would have been probably a bit simpler if it did so. So what does she do? So basically, whilst she's leading a unit, that unit can be affected by up to 2 different orders at the same time. Okay. Now my understanding of it currently, having looked at the orders rules, and if I get this wrong please tell me, is that I'm pretty sure she can give an order to herself. Now if we just quickly stroll back up to the actual orders at the beginning. Okay, Ashmilt's officers, each office 6 inches. Okay, so looking at that quickly, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, is that she could basically give an order to the unit she's leading. So that definitely could have some play and be quite effective, but I think the key thing for her is definitely going to be tactical genius, which means 1 unit from your army, and that's any unit, doesn't actually indicate to be Cadian like it does for the leader aspect. Within 12 inches of user stratagem, it costs you nothing. Now that is pretty bloody good. As we go to some other stratagems, we looked at a different video. Things like Armoured Might costing you 2 CP, or Fields of Fire or Reinforcements, you basically get them for free. So with Lord Solar and Ursala Creed, it's just a pure CP factory here. So a lot of CP, which is definitely going to probably prop us up as we look at some of the other data sheets. So looking at those two, I mean, I've actually already ordered Ursala Creed to pattern up personally, because I definitely think this, alongside the Lord Solar, is going to be really quite a good, powerful combination. Right, now onto the Cadian Castellan. Let's not look at the weapons, because not much to point as far as he's concerned, because not fighting units. Okay, so what does he do? He issues only 1 order. Okay, that's a bit of a nerf, because the previous of the Cadian Castellan could issue 2 orders. Now, another thing to call it as well, actually, is his wounds have gone from 5 to 4, and I believe also Ursala, she's gone from 5 to 4 as well. Okay, so they're getting a little bit less survivable. Okay, so he can only issue 1 order per turn, and when he leads a unit, they get sustained hits 1. So every time you roll a hit roll of a 6, you get an additional hit. Now, who can he join? Again, just like Ursala, can join the Cadian Shock Troops, Infantry Squads and Kasrkins. Now this would probably make sense on the Kasrkins, getting a boatload of hotshot lasgun shots out, all the special weapons, but maybe even the fact you get Cadian Shock Troops now in 20-man blobs, which we'll look at in a second, that could definitely ladder up and end up in quite a few shots. And of course, as you probably know, our army doctrine is essentially born soldiers, so if that unit's keeping still, sustained hits coming out of 20 odd lasguns firing potentially, it could actually ladder up to be quite a bit. Now, interesting, get back in the fight. Now this previously, as you know, was an order, is now baked into his data sheet. So at a cost of 50 points, previously 60, and with a 60, I'm assuming he used a Power Fist and Plasma Pistol, he probably isn't too bad. I think it's definitely going to be in 10th edition where it's going to be a real debate. Do you basically have Lord Solar leading a 20-man blob of infantry, Cadian Shock, Ursala doing the same thing, a Cadian Castellan doing the same thing. So you're going to have these little piles of infantry protecting an infantry officer, like we've got the Cadian Castellan. And then with him only giving 1 order, but then, with a score bound of 4 back and shoot with sustained hits, is that enough? I think personally the Cadian Castellan, with a point difference to Ursala Creed is only 55 points, but the Cadian Castellan is 50 points. So, I don't know, I think he's not looking as strong definitely as Ursala. Is a pure CP factory, able to give you back that CP if you use it within 12 inches, as we call it out here. And the fact she can give 2 orders, and he can only give 1, I don't know, the Cadian Castellan probably isn't looking as strong as Ursala anymore. Okay, what's next? Now, okay, Tank Commander. Now this is a big change. And I will look at the weapons in a little bit, because we'll look at a different video. But the key thing with the Tank Commander, points-wise, is it's gone from 205 points. And at 205 points, I assumed it took a multi-melter, heavy stubber and hunter killer missiles, so all the bells and whistles. It's now 240 points. So a 17% increase, and the 240 points is a fixed value. You can't chop and change weapons and get a lower point cost. You're stuck at 240. Now this is something we'll look at a lot with the Lehman Russes, is that you have to bring everything to get the value. So you're going to have to crack out your old sprues like I'm and get all your heavy stubbers painted up, get all your hunter-killer missiles painted up, and also with the sponson weapons, we won't go into too much detail here, but there's going to be a lot of questions you have to ask yourself, because if you're not taking a plasma cannon or a multi-melter with its really strong weapon profile, and you just take, say, a heavy bolter, you're potentially not giving yourself the full value. Now, of course, we can debate a multi-melter is now only an 18-inch range, which is a significant cut. I think it goes back to 8th edition, actually, but from 24 to 18 really hurts it. So an 18-inch weapon, which has got AP4, and AP4 is very powerful in 10th edition, is that as good as a heavy bolter, which got sustained hits 1s or a heavy flamer? So I think it's it's going to make it quite hard actually, and definitely for Limericers you'll see it come through, but it's going to make it quite tough actually managing this very fixed point cost. Now anyway, so the toughness 11 is the boost obviously from toughness 8, and as we look at the vehicles and as you see it on the wider internet, all vehicles are getting tougher. Now crucially, it's got an OC, objective control value of 3, so basically representing 3 Kasrkins, or 1.5 Cadian shock troopers. Now deadly demise basically means after it's been killed on a 6, blows up on it, and it does D3 mortal wounds, and it can issue 1 order to a friendly squadron unit. Now a key thing here is he can still give it to eligible units within 12. Okay, so that definitely is keeping us a bit more distance as opposed to in 8th edition, where it's only a 6-inch order range. Now it's 6-inch for infantry style orders and 12 inches for vehicle orders, which definitely helps. You can only give 1 order, and where this is like maybe justifies the 240 points is death befitting an officer. So after the model's been destroyed, doesn't matter if it blows up, doesn't say anything about that. On a 2+, you can shoot all of its weapons at full wounds. So basically, now this model, or this unit, has got baked in Vengeful Salute, the previous stratagem from 9th edition, costing you 1 CP. Okay, so we're seeing here, just like we saw of Lord Solar and Ursala, I think it is that they're kind of baking in rules we had to basically pay for into the data sheet. Now, does that justify a 17% increase on this model? And when I say 17%, remember that's assuming all of the bits and bobs, because if you actually didn't have a multi-melter and heavy stubber and a hunter-killer missile, the increase is probably more like a 25 to 30% increase. So, tank commanders, I think definitely, this is great, but is it enough to sort of win you games? I'm not sure. I think the tank commander, yeah, it's going to be. We'll have to look at Lim and Russ, because I'm not sure about this. 240 points feels like a lot. A short can shoot on death, which is a cool gimmick, but a cunning opponent can basically just give you 1 target and you want, only have 1 thing to shoot at when it dies. So, bit of a strange one for the tank commander at 240 points, able to give 1 order within 12 inches to other vehicles. But yeah, maybe we are just paying for the fact that vehicles overall are getting a lot tougher, because even a toughness 11, as you look at its weapon profiles, you can actually see that not many of them, besides a hunter-killer missile, will be wounding it in a las cannon on 4s or 3s. So it's really going to indicate how tough vehicles will be. Okay, what's next? The Platoon Command Squad. All right, so the Platoon Command Squad, if I've got this right, is now 60 points. Previously 85 points, and I assumed the character or the platoon commander takes a power fist and plasma pistol. Right, okay, so with the platoon command squad, you can take a heavy weapon team versus the Cadian command squad. Look in a sec, you can't. Right, so you can see there's no difference in toughness, the OC value of 1, which makes sense, and Mr. Platoon Commander has now got 3, previously 4 wounds. Now, a crucial element with that, just like with the previous characters we showed, Ursala Creed and the Cadian Castellan, is if you give them a plasma weapon and they blow up on the hazardous roll, given a character suffers 3 mortal wounds, they just evaporate from their overcharged plasma gun or plasma pistol. Right, I think the key thing here is they can issue 1 order per turn, just like they could in the previous 9th edition. And let's have a look. So leader, these guys can join Catachan, Def Corps, and Infantry Squads, with of course Cadian being excluded, with a Cadian Command Squad being added in as well. Right, as we look at some of the war gear abilities, actually command structure quickly. So basically platoon units within 6 of this unit can use a stratagem even while it's battle shocked. Okay, that has merit. Okay, that definitely has merit. Now, let me scroll ahead. If you forgive me, I'm going to go to the Cadians. Do they have the same thing? No, they don't. Okay, now, just like you, I watch other YouTube channels about 40k. I also read a lot of Goonhammer, and something that's coming up a little bit is that the idea of battle shock being a game-changing mechanic isn't coming through. Now, that's just from reading, watching a couple of videos from other YouTubers. So, if that's the case, if battle shocked is not going to be as important as it seems to be, is this enough to sort of really justify you taking this maybe over something else? Now, surely maybe taking this to allow you to use a stratagem could be pertinent, but I don't really know, having eyeballed the stratagems, if there's any which could affect a platoon unit, which would be game changing at this point. Now, I haven't looked at it properly and nor played any games yet, but definitely looking at this, I don't know if this is super powerful. Right, okay, so we'll keep that in mind, look at the Cadians, see what the Cadians can do. But okay, so now the Master Vox, every time the officer in the bearer's unit issues an order, it can do it up to 24 inches away, so no different to what we've got before. Now, the question I have here, and again, please pop up in the comments, is each time the officer in the bearer's unit issues an order, now the officer, is that referring to the platoon commander here? He's got the officer keyword. However, if you add in Cadian Castellan, okay, bad example because he can't actually be added, but given he's got the officer keyword, does he also benefit as well? And crucially, does Lord Solar benefit from that? Because if that's the case, Lord Solar can basically use that Voxcaster and boost that order 24. Now, some other key stuff in the wording here is it says each time the officer in the bearer's unit issues an order, it can issue it to an eligible unit up to 24 inches away. Okay, so I actually saw this from some of my patrons, so you know who you are, so thank you for saying this in my Discord. But does that mean Lord Solar can issue orders to units 24 inches away, including abhumans, so Ogryns, Ratlings, super heavy vehicles, or any other vehicle, because it's an eligible unit? Okay, tell me what you think, because I think that reads as it sounds, and it could be amazing. Cool. Okay, now Medpack. Now this has been debuffed, nerfed, from a 5-up feel no pain to a 6-up feel no pain, and the regimental standard also has been cut because obviously before you could roll once to wound, add 1 to the objective control score. So basically these move to 2. And however, if they're added to an infantry squad, for example, that basically means they go to OC3, which we'll look at in a second. So you can have this never-ending pile of objective controlling models. How long they'll survive, we'll see, but actually, as we look at the med pack, this obviously applies to the additional other models you bolt on as we talk about the leader units. So right, so the platoon command squad at 60 points is going to be an inclusion, and if you are playing Death Korps of Creed and the Catachans or infantry, whacking in a 6-up feel no pain has certainly got a lot of pertinence. A regimental standard, maybe not, because you could probably use the orders as you've seen, and maybe just going to give yourself a special weapon, yeah. But yeah, so platoon command is looking good. Now platoon command squad is looking good. Right, the Cadian command squad. Now clearly these can only be bolted onto Cadian shock, so not Kasrkin, which is interesting. You can bolt these onto the Cadian shock, and as you've already heard by now, they can be 20-man blobs. Okay, so what does this do that's different to the previous one? Right, so whilst it's got a Cadian officer, you can ignore any or modifiers of the characteristics of the model in this unit and to any roll or test made for the models in this unit, excluding modifiers to saving throws. Okay, so that means if there's any -1s to hit, -1s to wound, if that is still a thing, I don't know, battle shock or test, yeah, it says battle shock. So if you've got any negative modifiers to battle shock, you ignore all of it. Okay, that could definitely have some substance on a 20-man blob of Cadian shock troopers blasting our las guns, ladders up. And then this is no different, as we saw before. So this is coming in, I'm not sure I got my points right, but I'm pretty sure they're at 65 points, previously 85, so a 24% decrease in points for the Cadian command squad. Okay, on to my favourite, Colonel Ironhand Straken. I've removed the term Colonel, which is not happy with that. Right, okay. So looking at his weaponry, no real changes I can see. I think the plasma stuff has changed subtly. His shotgun, I believe, has got a bit spicier. No, his shotgun before was damage 2. Okay, that stayed the same. And his Bionic Claw is 6 attack, strength 6. Okay, strength 6, AP 3. Yeah, okay, it's lost a pip of AP, but crucially it's now anti-monster, always wounding on a 4+. So that's nice. It's always nice. Okay, so his core rules, he's a leader, and I'm guessing he can be added to Catachan. No surprises there, added to Catachan. And he's got Scout 6 inches, so we'll look at it in a second. But just like the Catachan jungle fighters, they can do a pre-game move of 6 inches. So really good to see he's got that ability as well. So removing any ambiguity, people could argue that, you know, if he didn't have it, therefore he can't do it, but that's all removed here. Okay, so a bit of a nod to his old rules. So Cold, Steel and Courage. Whilst this model is leading a unit, any melee weapons basically have got lethal hits. Okay, so we'll have a look at the Catachans in a second. It helps, but as you'll probably see for the Catachan's melee output, it's a bit better than it was in 9th, but it's not going to, you know, revolutionise anything. Right, he can basically re-roll the hit and the wound if you made a charge in melee attack. So that definitely makes him a bit of a combat sort of monster. You know, 6 attacks hitting on 2s, re-roll the 1s, wounding vehicles on or monsters on a 4+, wounding vehicles probably, gosh, most of the time on a 6, reroll the wound. Of course, against infantry he'll do well, but against anything tougher like vehicles, he's not going to do much damage. But to be fair, a lot of infantry is going to at least struggle into vehicles full stop in this edition by the looks of things. But at 80 points, previously 75, so a 7% increase. Is he worth it? I personally want to say yes, but I probably don't feel like he would. The other characters are the Cadian Castellan, Ursala, and in the Platoon command squads. And the Cadian command squad probably is going to be... I mean, I tried playing Combat Guard in the back end of 9th edition. It doesn't work. We're a shooting army, and as we'll look in the later videos, we're not about melee at all in this edition. He can crucially give 2 orders though, so that's good. It's got a 4+ invul save, and I think Ursala and the Castellan have got a 5+, so definitely he's somewhat tankier. Okay, who's next? All right, Primaris Pysker. Now you would have seen this, and this guy has had a humongous glow up. So you can also see he's got 3 wounds. Before he had 4, and you can see now the psychic phase has all been wrapped into basically the shooting or melee phase. So this is great. I think it's great for us because I mean the melee, the psychic phase for us most of the time was just you just take models off the board and you're like, yeah, you trust your opponent, which is always cool, but not very interactive. But I definitely feel they've really stripped the life out of the psychic phase. But looking at this guy, he looks relatively good. So he stayed at 60 points, no change. 60 points in the old edition, now 60 points as well. Okay, so you can see here. So Psychic Maelstrom Witchfire and Focus Witchfire, both 18 inches, D6 attacks, both blast or D6 plus 3, devastating wounds, which means you basically roll your D6 every 6 to wound, basically is doing, in this case, 1 mortal wound or 2 mortal wounds at strength 6, AP 2. So against infantry, he's going to absolutely mash stuff. Against vehicles, we're always going to struggle. You can, of course, see that he's got the hazardous rule here. So after you've done your shooting, then roll a dice. If you roll a 1, he suffers 3 mortal wounds and he evaporates. But this is relatively spicy. D6 plus 3 is always a good number, averaging 6, maybe 7, and D6 with blast. You know, you can get a lot out there. So this is actually quite a nice profile. And in melee, he's also got a melee attack as well, albeit 3 attacks hitting on 4s, which isn't great. However, I'm sure you've seen, as per other people showing this, he's got some very good rules. So 4+, feel no pain against psychic attacks for the unit he leads. And the units he can lead is basically all of the infantry style stuff, including Scions and Kasrkin. Which makes them some great play, particularly for the Scions if you blop them in with their deep strike, or Kasrkins maybe using the reinforcement rules. Right, however, what has definitely blown the bank is the fact that the start of your opponent's shooting phase, roll a D6, on a 1 they suffer D3 mortal wounds, and that is the unit, so you just kill off 3 of your Cadians. But on a 2+, you've got a 4+ invul save. Now this is pretty mega. Imagine a bit of a spoiler. Death Korps of Creed, 20-man blob with this bloke, with a command squad. That's a 6-up feel no pain, 4+ invul save, and then the Death Korps guys have got some other cool stuff as well. But you could just have a blob of dudes who just never dies. Of course, this is just shooting. Does nothing obviously to melee. But in an edition where vehicles are going to rule the roost, and I reckon our infantry is just going to evaporate quite quickly, 4+ invul save could be very, very handy. Now, you probably have seen in the army list building announcements, or if you've seen the actual rule book, there's no restrictions on what you can take. It's basically a free-for-all. So you can't take multiple Lord Solars or the Colonel Ironhand Straken, but you can take one of these blokes for every single infantry squad if you want. You are of course saturating the assassination style secondary objectives, which I don't actually know what they look like now, but yeah, if you want to make your tanky infantry last forever, this is your man. So he's looking quite nice. Right, Gaunt's Ghost. So okay, they've gone from 120 to 115. Okay, and this is looking a lot better than previous. So you probably all know that these guys were unplayable because their rules were that one entire page of rules. And now I love these guys. I actually bought the kit, never painted it, but now we'll paint it because I think there's something in this. Okay, so rule core stats wise, Ibrahim Gaunt has gone to 3 wounds, previously 4. Okay, interestingly, Colonel Korp used to have 4 wounds, but now he's just wrapped into here. So this is a bit of a bummer. You lose the lore aspect of all the different named dudes, but I think this really helps, just making it simple. So they've got 2 wounds, and it does, of course, actually call out the fact that you've got all the different weapons. So this still is a bit annoying to play through, but at least you still have, Bragg's autocannon, Korbeck and Larkin and Rawn's Lads Carbine. So you've got a little bit of lore there, but it's a massive simplification. But as we look at their weapons, so Bragg's autocannon used to be you'd fire 2 shots if you missed or re-rolled it. They've just removed that and said you can fire 4 shots, so that's great. And autocannons at strength 9 and D3 damage is probably going to be wounding some light vehicles like Rhinos on a 4+ or Chimeras. We'll look at that a bit later. Yeah, I mean, beyond that, okay, so, Larkin's Lon Laz is precision, so you can basically identify and hit the character in a unit, which is where he's leading. And damage 4, that feels like a lot. Because previously it was damage 3, and you do D3 mortals like you did in the old days. But I mean, this is good. Okay, chainsword, straight silver. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so McColl's straight silver knife. You've got 5 attacks. They're devastating wounds. Hits on a 2, and it's precision. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's some cool stuff in here. I think, whether it's hyper competitive, I don't know, but I think there's definitely merit. Now, the reason why I say there's a bit of merit is they've got the infiltration rule, which means they can be basically deployed in no man's land. They've got lone operative, which means they can't be targeted if they're more than 12 inches away, and they're stealth. So if you're within 12, they're -1 to hit. So these guys are very elusive. And of course, you've got fights first, which is self-explanatory. Now, voice of command, they can give 2 orders to regiments or Gaunt's Ghost units. Now, Gaunt's Ghost units, the only Gaunt's Ghost units, as I know, is themselves. So as before, what I said before, you could basically have Ibrant yelling at himself and his mates twice. Now, let's just double check if they can lead units. Okay, they can't lead any units. So these guys definitely could be quite tasty. You could definitely boost them with one of the orders, move, or is it duty and honor to basically make him objective control value a bit higher. But these guys could really have some good objective play early on, and potential just a bit of a waste of them, but potentially some early screening. Now, what are their benefits? So each time a range attack targets this unit, models always have the benefit of cover. Okay, so you're -1 to hit, and you've got a +1 cover save, which means they're then going to saving on a 4 for all the bodies and 3 for Ibram. Okay, so they're actually getting quite survivable. Okay, and then the covert stealth team rules, end of your opponent's turn, not within engagement range. You can remove them from the battlefield. And the reinforcement step, in your next movement phase, they can be set up anywhere on the battlefield within more than 9 inches away from enemy units. So, okay. So yeah, and 5+ invul save, as I said, -1 to hit, +1 save, can't be targeted if they're more than 12 inches away. They really could stick around. It'd be quite annoying to your opponent. So I'll definitely be painting these guys because I've had them for ever since I launched, never actually painted them. So I think, yeah, Gaunt's Ghost at 115 points has really got some potential. So really exciting to see. Right, who is next? Now, Regimental Attaches. Okay, so the key thing here is previously they were about 90 points for 3, and you had to buy them individually. Now you have to buy all 3 full stop, and they're now 40 points. So a humongous drop. Now, they were made of paper before, and they're still made of paper, so toughness 3, 1 wound, or, yep, no change. I mean, the weapons aren't even worth talking about, but basically now you bring these 3 gentlemen, or ladies, potentially, and each of them have got their individual rule, which actually is a little different for 2 of them to what you had before. So the Master of Ordnance, basically a unit within 30 inches, Astra Militarum Artillery has sustained hit 1. Okay, now, spoiler, and you've probably heard from other YouTubers, this is going to be addition of indirect fire for Astra Militarum. Whack out your Manticores, whack out your Basilisks, dust off your mortar teams. I've bought more. I'm going to paint my second Basilisk personally. We're going to absolutely just smash people with indirect fire. And if you've got sustained hit 1s as well, it'll just be insulting. So I'll be definitely cracking out my... I've actually got a Master Order, so kit bash. I don't have these 2, but that's just going to be rude. So, that's nice. Now, this guy, I mean, until we see our Forge War planes, the Valkyrie sucks. We'll look at the later video, but it's just plain crap now, unfortunately. So this guy's just like an additional body. Now, this guy, however... is basically wrapping in the previous order, the Commissariat order, where now basically he denies all reinforcements within 12 inches of the unit's astropath model. Okay, it's got to be the model, crucially, so you've got to put this guy at the front. Now, who can these guys lead? They can be attached to Command Squad, okay, just like they were before, yeah? Okay. But yeah, so 40 points. I mean, just for this bloke, yeah, just bring him. I don't actually own the Master Ordnance, but I mean, as I said, if you're going to go all in meta gar, which I think it's going to be, which is artillery, just bring him to just add insult to injury as your opponent just deals with all these indirect fire. All right, who's next is Ogryn Bodyguard. Okay, so just to confirm, and then I'll just skip over this quite quickly, but attached to a command squad, no change. Now, let's have a look. Wounds, toughness, blah, blah, blah. So toughness 6, previously toughness 5, 6 wounds, no change. And, yeah, 5 up save. Okay. So core ability is a 6 up, feel no pain. And this aligns to something which has changed also for the Bullgryns. And the way they're basically managing the bodyguard rule here is instead of basically him jumping in front of them, taking the sniper shot per se, he just now gives the officer models. Okay, so if you've got multiple officer models, so if you had a command squad and Lord Solar, they both now have got a 4+ feel no pain. Oof. Okay, because there's definitely a lot of stuff popping up at Precision, where basically you can snipe characters. And as you've probably seen from other YouTubers, the Vindicare Assassin is looking amazing. I think he's 85 points, and it's just brutal on characters. I'm glad I've got one. But whack on a 4+ feel no pain, and suddenly, you know, you're increasing the survivability of a model by probably 50% if you cut the math that way. Now, another cool thing they're basically doing here is, okay, so if the officer has taken 1 or more wounds, this model basically +1 to hit, +1 to wound on the melee attack. So definitely buffing his attacks here, which is either going to be a huge knife, or the Bullgryn Maul. And I won't go through these too much because we'll look at them a bit later. Now again, you can give them a 4+ invul save for the Brute Shield, and the Slab Shield, which used to push it down to a 2+ save, now basically gives you an additional wound. Now I've seen this for some Space Marine style stuff where basically previously, just like this, it used to boost your armor save, now it just gives you additional wound. So a bit of a different take on it. I personally would have preferred to have stuck with boosting the save as opposed to additional wounds, because from a math point of view, you want to be probably having a better chance to stop anything going through to the wound, because once it's in the wounds, obviously it just pushes away. Anyway, math hammer there, but yeah, so interesting. I think this is a different take. Obviously, previously he just tanked all the wounds, but now he gives the officer a 4+ feel no pain. Okay, and his points are 40 points. Okay, previously 65. Okay, yeah, not bad. All right, next is Nork Deddog. Okay, so again, toughness has gone up to toughness 6, previously 5. He's got 6 wounds, previously 7. Okay, so he's gone down a wound. Now he's got a 5+ feel no pain. Okay, and again, like his Ogryn Bodyguard friend, he gives an officer a 4+ feel no pain. And basically his offensive output is the Thunderous Headbutt, which is this has had a massive glow up because previously it was a little bit all over the place. But okay, now on a 2 to 5, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On the enemy on a 6, they suffer D3+3 mortal wounds. That's lovely. That is fantastic. So in addition to your attacks, you've now got a chance to do up to 6 mortal wounds, which is very, very nice. Now his weapon profile is a bit of a spoiler, obviously, if we look at the elite unit. So Ripper Gun, sustain hits 1, any 6 hit is additional hit, and the profile has stayed basically the same except for the AP coming down. And his huge knife has also lost a pip of AP, gone up in, stayed the same in strength. It's got an additional pip of damage, and it's now got devastating wounds. So if you roll a 6 to wound, those 2 wound damage is now 2 mortal wounds. So he is at 70 points, previously 60. Okay, he's a bit more expensive, but is it I think now Nork Deddog is probably your way to go. 5+ feel no pain. Offensive output. Oh, but this guy's got a 4+ invul save potential. So I don't know. Yeah, either one of them. But I think the old style play, many of you would have loved doing this, is you march up the command squad with the Bullgryns Bodyguard or Nork Deddog, just tank wounds in the center objective, and like I played it, and then used the medic strat to bring back the lost bodyguard. Will that be required? It's, I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, okay. So Nork Deddog and probably similar places where they were before as far as their role is concerned. Right, okay. Now on to our Battleline units in the Infantry Squad. So, okay. Now the key thing to remember is the Infantry Squad can take a heavy weapon team, just like the good old days. And just like the other ones we'll look at, you can take either blobs of, this is confusing, 10 or 20. And you can basically see here, they've been really clear what you can bring. So you can take either 2 sergeants, 14 guardsmen and 2 heavy weapon teams, 2 sergeants, 16 guardsmen and 1 heavy weapon team, etc, etc. You can of course take special weapons. I'm not going to confuse myself because I'm not going to look at it straight away, but I think it's quite clear you can only take 2 of, say, a grenade launcher and 2 of a plasma cannon. You can't take 4 of all of them, a plasma gun that is. Now, as we look at their core rules, nothing has changed here. Nothing we would surprise. The objective control value with 2 basically goes back to the old days of OBSEC from 9th edition. So we are better than all of the stuff you've seen before. And as we look at the elites, are also better at holding objectives at 2. Now the heavy weapon team holding 4. Now this is interesting. It's obvious it's two guardsmen stapled together, but with its reduced base now basically being, I think it's a lot smaller now than it previously was. This is definitely going to help hold objectives. Now I'm probably overthinking this because if you put two guardsmen next to each other, their base size probably is the same as the heavy weapon team, but I'll have to measure it afterwards. But I do think there's actually a bit of a very janky play you can have with this tiny little base holding 4 object OC value. So it might be an outlying idea, but it could be there. Now the weapons, the only one I really want to call out, which is this is just the irony of 40k, now played since 8th edition, is the grenade launcher. So the frag setting has actually gone down to D3, previously D6, I believe. It's got blast still. It's now strength 4, previously strength 3. But the crack launcher previously used to be strength 6. It's now strength 9, AP2, D3 damage. Now, it used to be strength 6, AP1, D3 damage. Now, compare it to the plasma at strength 8, AP3, 2 damage. Is the crack launcher better than the plasma? Now, I kind of think it is, because you're going to be wounding most light skin vehicles on a 4 versus a 5. Short's got the lesser AP. Short's it's D3 versus 2 flat damage. But given this is hazardous, okay, this is rapid fire as well, but the crack launcher does give you some actual good options now. So I'm kind of giggling because I've got about 5 of the guys painted up from 8th edition, maybe even 6. So is the grenade launcher suddenly back? Because it's sucked for ages, but we'll see. Now, other ones to call out, obviously we've got also the heavy bolter. It's got sustained hits, as we saw before, on the tank commander, so only 6 is hitting on his additional hit. But as you can see here, as we'll look at in the later video, particularly heavy weapons, is that any heavy style weapons for infantry have basically been cut only to be hitting on 5s. Now, I've just noticed, does this mean you can only take heavy bolters? Where is the las cannon and everything? Let me just scroll down. So can they take... Okay, phew. Okay, so the heavy weapon team can take everything else. Autocannon, las cannon, missile launcher, mortars. But the crucial element is they're hitting on 5s. So if you stay stationary hitting on 4s, because heavy keyword, but this is definitely how they've managed us to still be crap at shooting heavy weapons, is buffing us down to hitting on 5s. Now, looking at their abilities, Defenders of Humanity, basically if you need an objective, you get the benefits of cover. So the Infantry Squad is inherently more survivable, as we'll look at the other guides in a second. Now the Voxcaster has been significantly changed. It's actually gone from being only about allowing you to receive the order, because as you look at the wording in the Command Squad Voxcaster, it says any eligible unit. Now the Voxcaster basically refunds you CP. So if you use a stratagem on them, on a 6+, you get the CP back, and if there's an officer nearby, you get it on a 5+. Now, this goes back to I think it must have been 3rd or 4th edition, where Voxcaster sort of was like actually gave you stuff back as opposed to being all about the radio communications of orders. But the Infantry Squad, now the points, and this is a bit of a spoiler, is all of our battle line units are 65 points. All of them. So, if they were different, like they were, obviously, as you know, the Def Corps Creed previously were 90 points, assuming they had the Power Sword, Plasma Pistol, and Med Pack. With all of them the same points, now there's some real debate about which you bring. There's some significant debate. And I'm not going to answer this question now, because we could definitely talk about it in a later video. But as we move forward, let's now look. Okay, so the Infantry Squad, heavy weapon team, and has always got the benefits of cover. So putting them on a 4+ save. Right, onto the Cadians, which I'm sure you've seen. Now, as I said, they can't take a heavy weapon team. The key difference is the drum-fed autogun, which the sergeant can take. And this has kind of been cut, because the drum-fed autogun used to be rapid fire 2. Yep, it's now, okay, it's now just 2 attacks, or 2 shots. So it's lost the rapid fire word, or keyword. And that's a bit of a bummer, because in the orders, which I don't obviously cover in this video, is it just adds 1 to the rapid fire of all weapons. It doesn't stipulate which one. So your las guns benefit, obviously. Your plasma guns benefit as well, but your drum-fed autogun doesn't. So, I mean, is the autogun as good as a las pistol? I don't know. I mean, you could argue that if you're a melee with guard, you're going to lose. Well, it depends what you're fighting, but you know, a pistol versus an auto gun, probably an auto gun as I reflect. Okay, but what is their key ability? So they basically are objective sticky, so shock troops. Okay, so these guys can move around the tabletop, touch objectives, move on, and basically keep that for you, like the Space Marines could in the back end of 9th edition. So the Cadian shock can secure objectives, whilst the infantry squads are more survivable. Right, on to Death Korps of Krieg. Okay, so no change here. Just like the other ones, you can bring blobs of 20. And as we look at their core rules, their abilities rather, basically, now this is spicy, and I'm pretty sure this was as per the regimental doctrine in the old codex, but once they're below starting strength, so if they've got 19 blokes out of 20 left alive, you've got +1 to hit. That's quite nice, so you're boosting yourself to hitting on 3s across everything. And if you're below half strength, so if you're sitting on 9 models on a 20-man blob, you've got +1 to wound. So that is definitely a force multiplier, and I think I said in the previous video, but again, for your las guns, and actually all of the weapons bouncing off vehicles, with only the crack launcher wounding light skin vehicles on a 4, you know, +1 to hit against vehicles is a significant force multiplier. And given, as we said at the start, that we've basically got the Born Soldiers regimental doctrine, so if you stay stationary, 6 to hit auto wounding, with that on top as well with this, it definitely has some potential. Now, the key thing here basically is that the med pack for these guys, you bring back a D3 dead dudes every command phase. So previously it was a stratagem, now it's a free. So, as I giggled before, I think, actually I saw this from some of the patrons again, so thank you. Bring a command squad with a 6+ feel no pain from the medic, with these guys, with the Primaris Pysker, with 4+ invul save, bringing back guys every turn, and even if you are dying, you're getting +1, and this is +1 to the hit in both the shooting and fight phase. You can have a very, very versatile set of 20 dudes, 25 dudes with the bolt-on leaders sticking around. So are these the meta at the moment? Death Korps of Krieg, so survivability, increased effectiveness as they get more damaged versus survivable infantry models, obsec sticky Cadians. As we look at the Catachans, what do they do? So they still have the crappiest weapon choices. The fact the sergeant can't even take a chainsword is embarrassing. I mean, anyway, right. So just like Colonel Straken, they've got a 6-inch scout move before the game begins, which is good. So you can get your screening up quite early, so push out a bit more. And going back to, I think it's 8th edition, where on the charge, or were charged, you get +1 to the strength, and +1 to your AP. Okay, so at least you're going to be wounding Space Marines on a 4 with an AP 1, if you were charged or were charged. And you can pre-go move, but still, it's such a shame, because the Catachan should be so much better, but not being able to take any of the special weapons, not being able to take a freaking chainsword, scout inch move 6. I mean, there's definite merit. You could bring one of these blobs of 20 as a massive big line, pushing up 6, and if you are playing an opponent who's got sort of infiltration or early deep strike potential, there could be merit there, but still, I think one thing's clear. Unfortunately, the Catachans, as much as I love the Catachan models, even though they're old, they're not going to compete against more survivable infantry squads, tanky, effective Death Korps of Krieg, or objective, sticky Cadian shock troops. So it's a real shame that the Catachans still are no good. Right. Okay, next. Speaking of Catachan, you've got Sly Marbo. So crucially, he can't be attached to any units. He is an independent dude, which is cool. His wounds have gone backwards, so he's gone from 5 to 4. And his points, I think he's one weird one where he went to 75 points, previously 50. Okay. Yeah. Why? I don't really know. But, okay, so his Pistola, the pistol has actually stayed the same, lost a pip of AP. So has his Envenom Blade, which actually now has gone from damage 1 to damage 2 for the blade. Right, so some key things here is they basically kept the idea that he's an infantry hunter, so he always wounds on 2s against infantry, which is very spicy. Precision, which means he can definitely zap at some characters with his precision rule, both with his pistol and also the blade. And interestingly, he used to be able to deep strike, old-fashioned term. He can now be deployed in no man's land. He can't be targeted if more than 12 inches away, which is definitely good. And if you're within 12, he's -1 to hit. Now, his one-man army rule is a bit crap, to be honest, because, okay, so if he's within 3 inches of a friendly Astra Militarum unit with ranged attacks, after the enemy unit has finished making its attacks, this model can shoot as if it was the shooting phase. So that kind of works, but if he's unattached and he's within 12, they would target him, yeah, as opposed to the... I don't know, but... Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced this is super good. It's definitely nice. This damage output is good against infantry. It's not super good. And then, like fighting a shadow, so basically you can pick him up and basically make a normal move. So every time he's shot, not engaged at range, he can make a normal move as if it's movement phase, but he can't charge. Okay, so he could, I don't know, move back, move behind cover, do some like Eldari jankiness and jump behind cover. Yeah, so I think though, 75 points, I mean, he's more than a Cadian Castellan, he's more than a Ursala Creed. I don't know, he feels very expensive for what he is. I don't know, but the thing is, depending how the new secondary objectives and primary objectives play out, has he got some definite merit? The fact he could be an infiltrator, he can't be targeted, he's -1 to hit, and he can have another movement. So, but with an OC value of 1, as far as any jankiness getting onto objectives, and he can't even charge after, I don't know, but 75 points feels like a lot now. So, maybe not good news for Sly Marbo. Right, Kasrkin. Okay, so... yeah, I personally never bought them. I never got on the Kasrkin chain train, even though they were mental. I think they're definitely not mental anymore. Now, the thing with these guys is they can take up to 10. You can't take blobs of 20. Weapons have all stayed the same, all the selection. I think, crucially, the marksman, it's a heavy, which is no change. Damage 3, was it previously? Damage 3. Okay, interestingly, this has stayed exactly the same, so no change. Of course, it's lost the mortal wound potential. Now, they can scout move 6 inches, just like the Catachans can. Great. They've got a 4+ save, which is good. They can actually be... Now, you can select... okay, you can select... Basically, they can be... to any command phase, select one order to be fetched from this unit next command phase. In addition to any other orders issued to this unit by... Okay, so they can basically be given 2 orders, yeah? Any orders to this unit by an officer model. Yeah, so they can be given 2 orders. Now, being given 2 orders, just like the Gaunt's Ghost can, is this ever going to make up for the mortal wound output that they used to be able to do through overcharged lessons? And I think the obvious answer is no. So, points-wise, they've gone from... now I'm assuming 110 points, which are the power sword and plasma pistol and the sergeant, to 120. So they've gone up by 9%, but if you take out the power sword and plasma pistol, which I'm assuming most people didn't take, 100 points, they've gone up by 20%. Now, are these guys going to be used a lot? I don't know. Objective control value of 1. Sure, you can give yourself duty and honour. The orders make them to objective control 2. But 120 points, which is almost double what a 10-man infantry squad can get. Are these guys going to be as fielded as much as they used to be? I don't know. And of course, this is me. I've actually looked at this properly. I'm just back from holiday. I don't know. Now, they do have Melter Mine. This used to be a stratagem. This definitely helps. And as I said, in a meta where vehicles are going to rule the roost, mortal wounds against vehicles is going to definitely come in handy. Yeah, so if you're charging into a vehicle 3 inches away, or you're not charging necessarily, mortal wounds can help. But, you know, they've gone from an auto include for any meta list to being a consideration. Okay. Who's next? The Preacher. Preacher man. So he's gone from 45 to 35, so he's got cheaper. He can join everything you'd think of. And, okay, he's got a 4+ invul save, which I believe is no change. His weapons, I mean, this guy's not about his weapons, it's about what he does. So, okay, war hymns. Okay, so any melee hits get sustained hit 1s. Okay, and this model can re-roll the hit if it's not battle shot. I mean, okay, if you're in melee, sustain hits 1, whatever. I mean, maybe there's like a bit of a meme put in with the Catachans with Iron Hand Straken with this guy for some cool stuff, but no, it's just, yeah, it doesn't do anything. Right, Sergeant Harker, so he can only lead or be attached to Catachans. Now, payback is basically the same. It's got sustained hits. He got a feel no pain, which is definitely a buff because he didn't previously. As you can see, he can scout move 6 as well, so if he's Catachan friends. And interestingly, okay, so basically he gives the attached unit a -1 to hit if you attack models more than 12 inches away. Okay, so okay, so if you take one blob of 20 Catachans, pre-game move 6, -1 to hit because of Harker. Okay, that's definitely giving a bit more survivability to your pre-game screen, and it is a gimmick. This one, it's cool because I've actually got the model I think is cool. Once per game, payback has got 6 shots and sustained hits 3. Okay, so that's cool. That's super cool. In the sense that obviously he can fire 6 shots, and if you got hyper lucky, that could turn into mathematically, if you roll perfectly, 18 shots. Of course, I'm not going to, but that's cool. Now he is gone from 40 to 60 points. Okay, maybe it's because he can -1 to hit the unit he's on, and he can have a super blast out with his bolter. But given he can be attached to Catachans, maybe. Okay, who's next? Regimental Enginseer. Okay, so leader. Who can he be attached to? Okay, all those guys. That's interesting, cool. Because he basically gives no benefit to those units, as you can imagine. He's a disciple of the Omnissiah. So, whilst this model is within 3 of 1 or more friendly Astra Militarum vehicles, he has a lone operative ability. Okay, so you wouldn't bother bolting him onto infantry unit. He just hangs around the vehicle pool of vehicles. As long as he's within 3, he can't be targeted more than 12 inches away. So that's nice. Okay, so the Omnissiah's Blessing. So he can heal units within 3 inches, vehicles from a D3 wound. And he can also grant a 4+ invul save. Now, that is very nice. Was it previously 4 or 5? What did he use in the past? Oh, he used to give a 5+. Okay, so that vehicle, right. So he can give a Bane Blade a 4+ invul save. Right, that is very nice. That's amazing. Okay, select one. Okay, so he can heal wounds, no change in the previous stuff, and he can give a 4+ invul save to a vehicle. Oh boy. Oh boy. Like, how much does he cost? 45 points, previously 40. Whatever. Oh my god. Okay, so that's outstanding. So vehicle car park, you have your Lehman Russ that's been fed out, 4+ invul save, 4+ invul save, Rogue or Dawn. Oh, that's lovely. So I'm going to dust off my guy. Okay, what else does he do? So the vehicle gets killed within 12 inches. He gets 6 attacks on his axe. Very, very cool, very fluffy, but I mean, whatever. But this is oh gosh. In an edition where it's going to be hard to kill vehicles, giving our vehicles a 4+ invul save is just going to be not nice to people. Okay. Servitors, whatever. They have got cheaper in the sense that if you take, and I think I got the points wrong here, but if you gave them the multi-melters, because remember, 35 points assumes you take the best stuff here. So they're 35 points for 4. And if you used to take, 4 dudes with multi-melt, 2 with multi-melters, 2 without, that costs a lot more than 35 points. So they're still crap. They still hit on 6s. If you're near an Enginseer, you're hitting on 5s, yippee. And they've got a 6+ invul save. But, I mean, you would never take them because you're playing guard. Okay, whatever. Now, the Commissar. So, I was very excited to see what you would get. It's not too bad. Okay, so 3 wounds, previously 4. So, if he fires his plasma pistol and kills himself, he disappears. Now, he can give an order, he can give 1 order, and he can only give duty and honor of fixed bayonets. Okay, so that's okay. Regimental units, so that's going to be all of the previous stuff we've looked at. But what does his cool execution rule do? So, okay, so once per battle round, once per battle round, only once per, okay, only once. If an Astra Militarum infantry unit's battle shocked within 12, they're not battle shocked. He instead executes a model. Okay, so that's great. That's definitely great. As I said though, depending how much battle shock plays itself out, maybe with us, if we take lots of infantry, it could have a bit of an impact, and also their vehicles as well. Actually, this could be quite powerful because obviously you can use a stratagem as per the core stratagems, but just basically losing a model for free, losing a model to keep a unit with no battle shock is very, very helpful. And whilst an officer model is in the same unit, you can reroll the battle shock test taken for this unit. So, okay, so you could basically, okay, so if always happens, if the unit he's leading is battle shocked and a unit within 12 inches is battle shocked, you can reroll 1 test, depending on which is more important for the game, or execute a model. Okay, so okay, so this is good. He's doing what you assume. Now, is he stabby? Yeah, he's kind of stabby. It's not too bad. But 5 invul save, no change. So, Commissar is gone from 50 to 35 points. Okay, and the 50 points was assuming a power sword and plasma pistol. So, yeah, okay. I think we're going to be sport for choice because you're definitely going to take Lord Solar, Ursala, Cadian Castellan maybe, and then a Commissar. Yeah, I don't know. I think list building is going to be a bit of a. It's going to be. I don't know. I haven't had built any list yet. This is back from holiday. I think there's going to be a lot of choiceful decisions to make because otherwise you're going to be taking characters everywhere, and he can only bolt to the stuff you'd expect. Yeah. Okay, almost there. How long have we been going? Right, over an hour. Okay. Right, Ogryns. Now, these guys are tankier, just like the bodyguards were. They've gone from T5 to T6. They've got the same wounds. And now the Ogryns, their core ability is a feel no pain of 6+. Previously, it was -1 damage, as you all may remember. Now, is -1 damage as good as a 6+ feel no pain? And I think the mathematical answer is no. Because a 6+ feel no pain on 3 models with 9 wounds, on 2 models, so just pretend, 2 models with 6 wounds is 1 extra wound. Versus, it depends on the weapon, but I'm overcomplicating it, but I kind of think -1 damage is better than a 6+ feel no pain. If it was a 5+ feel no pain, absolutely. Okay, now the weapons, I think they all basically stay the same. I lost the AP pip, no difference as we sort of seen before. Their attacks are the same as well, and the point blank barrage rule has basically been, this is a nerf, yeah, because previously you could shoot into engagement range. Now if they shoot the closest eligible target, it's +1 to the AP. Okay, so what's their point cost done? They've gone from 90 to 75. Okay, now I don't know, I mean, Objective Control 1, they can receive orders from Lord Solar only, just like in the old Codex. Are these guys you're going to bring them? I'm not convinced. They've got a t-shirt save, they've got 6+ feel no pain. I don't know. Okay, now the Bullgryns, and I'm very biased because I've got 9 Bullgryns. Okay, so no change again. The Grenadier Gauntlet hasn't changed. The Bullgryn Maul is identical. Strengths, okay, it's identical, yep. Okay, right. Now, they've got a feel no pain, and they've got the -1 damage, and they've got a 4+ invul save. or just like with the Ogryn Bodyguard, you can make them 4 wounds each. Now, as I said, this is nowhere near as good as what it used to be, pushing you to a 2+ save, but a 6+ feel no pain with a -1 damage and a 4+ invul save and an increased toughness 6 means any small arms are going to really struggle to get through these guys. So, are these guys now the answer to basically true objective contesting units? Because 4+ invul save, as I said, -1 damage and a 6+ feel no pain is going to make these guys stick around longer than you'd think. Yeah, so they've gone from 90 to 75 points for 3 models. So a Bullgryns now the true answer for Astra Militarum to hold and contest objectives. Of course, you've only got an OC value of 1, but how many models can you take? So you can take between, you can take between 3 and 6. Right, so are these guys a potential mid-board contesting unit? I kind of think they are. I mean, I'm just going to completely just make up stuff, but could they go into some like what's all the in Space Marine shield boys with the swords, whatever, the Vanguard vets? Could these guys go toe to toe with this? Maybe. Of course, their damage output won't be as effective potentially, but I think 6+ feel no pain, 4+ invul save, and then -1 damage. Definitely, they're going to be trumping over the Ogryns. And I think there's definitely some play at 75 points. They definitely, 90 points, they've definitely got some merit. So quite exciting for the Bullgryns. All right, very last is the Ratling snipers. Now, they're still made of paper. They can infiltrate. They're -1 to hit. So they can basically be pre-game deployed. They're -1 to hit. They can shoot, sharp, and scarper. Only in the shooting phase where you can basically do a move after you've shot. Hitting on 3s, hitting on 2s if they stay still. They've gone from 50 to 70 points. I don't know why, but I mean they're still furry and I don't rate them personally. But right, so I think that is it before we get into everything else. I'm actually going to pause here because we've got the fast attack units and it's already at over an hour. So key takeaways from this, as I go backwards, is the Bullgryns, I believe, have got definite merit. Very, very survivable, more so than they were before, because of the 6+ feel no pain. Other call-outs for me. Now, Commissars, again, we need to sort of see how effective Battle Shock is and how many actual infantry units you bring in the game, because we'll look at a different video, but indirect is mentally good for us now. Do you just clog at your opponent with limb and rust battle tanks, hammer them with artillery? So how much we'll need to ignore Battle Shock is debatable, but at 35 points is definitely looking good. Regimental Enginseer, 4+ invul save and vehicles, amazing. That's going to be ridiculous. Harker, whatever. Regimental Preacher, no. Kasrkins, I don't know anymore. Marbo, too expensive. Catachan's one of them maybe out of 6 Battleline units. Def Corps of Krieg, yes. Cadian Shock, maybe. Infantry, yeah. And then, Nork Deddog, Ogryn Bodyguard, definitely to be included potentially. These guys, I mean, 35 points for a guy who basically makes you get sustained hits on artillery, that could definitely be quite nice. Gaunt's Ghosts, I'm going to say yes. Primaris Pysker, absolutely yes, if you take an infantry. Harker, meh. Cadian Command Squad, if you take Cadians or the Platoon, yes. Now, then it's a question of the Cadian Castellan versus Ursala Creed. Ursala Creed, free CP stratagems, absolutely. And then Lord Solar, auto include. So, hopefully that was relatively interesting as I've gone through it. A good bit of my opinion. Remember, I haven't actually played any games yet, so I do have the benefit of actually got points now, comparing points versus what they were before. But hopefully interesting. And as I ask all the questions throughout the video, please give me your thoughts, answers to any questions in the comments. So as I said, I'll do another video covering the rest of the datasheets because there's a lot more to go through. But hopefully it was enjoyable. And if you want to support me, you can do so with a like, comment, or by subscribing, joining my Patreon platoon, or simply watching any of my other YouTube videos. A massive thanks to my current supporters, subscribers, and Patreons. So keep your bayonet sharp, lights gone Ord. Faith from the Emperor strong. Patron platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn. Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten. Tank Commander Mitchell. Colour Sergeant DuPont. Sergeants Adal, the Colonel Merrill. Veteran Gibson, Hall, Lundeen. Guardsman Beard, Coquelin, Flint, Heels, Malik, Nitton, Nguyen, Smith, Tom, Tompkin. Conscript England, Gilliam, Goodwin.